I'll talk about 3 things in this video. First, the big change in the latest version of the Scrum Guide concerning the Scrum Master's role as a facilitator. Second, how to facilitate any meetings, any sessions. And third, how to facilitate all the Scrum events. As per the previous version of the Scrum Guide before the 2020 version was released, the Scrum Master serves the development team in several ways, including facilitating Scrum events as requested or needed. All references to facilitation. The word facilitating completely removed from the latest version of the Scrum Guide 2020. But still, this doesn't mean that Scrum Masters shouldn't be facilitating meetings, sessions, Scrum events. Remember, Scrum Masters are true leaders who serve the Scrum team, the organization. And one of the best ways to fulfill this role is through facilitation. Cambridge.org defines facilitation as the process of making something possible or easier. Without a facilitator, meetings, sessions can often go over time. No clear outcomes. Everyone is going off topic, ending deadlocks. In short, torture for the attendees. Ineffective meetings are impediments. Impediments to the team's progress, impediments for the organization. The facilitator of a session should be someone who the participants of a session feel safe around. They trust the person. They trust that this person will ensure that everyone has an equal voice in the session. The person will remain impartial, not get involved in the decisions being taken or the outcomes being defined in the session. Impartial. Before talking about how to facilitate Scrum events, let's quickly go through some guidelines, some powerful tips on how to facilitate any sessions. Starting with the first one, the right time, the right venue, the right outcome. Facilitation starts prior to the session, not during the session, prior to the session. Remember, facilitation means making something easy. You should be setting up the session for all the attendees, all the participants involved. Ensure that there's a right venue, either online or on site, a physical location. Ensure that everyone can access this physical location. Everyone can access this online platform that you will be using during the session. Ensure that the schedule is right. Everyone is okay with the time being proposed, the date being proposed. Else, pick another date. Keep going until you have something that suits everyone involved. And also ensure that all the participants are aware of the expected outcome of a session. Everyone involved in the session should know exactly what is expected from them in the session. They need to come prepared. Tip number 2, be an active listener. You need to ensure that everyone in the session has an equal voice, is participating, is focused, is attentive. And to do that, you need to listen. You need to look, you need to watch, you need to know what's happening. You need to redirect conversations that go off topic. Always remember the outcome, the expected outcome of a meeting, and remain on this line up to this expected outcome. If anyone is hijacking the meeting, especially people with higher positions, managers, team leaders, middle management, directors, I don't know, ensure that everyone in the meeting has an equal voice. If people are hijacking the meeting, use powerful questions to redirect attention and bring them back to this flow that will lead to the outcome, the expected outcome. Tip number 3, remain neutral. That's hard. That's really hard, especially when you are a Scrum Master facilitating a session for the team. You want to get involved because it's your team. Especially when the team is going into a direction that you don't like. You know, you believe that they will fail. And you want them to go in another direction. But you can't do it. You need to remain impartial. Neutral, extremely important, because a facilitator is extremely powerful in a session. People listen to the facilitator. People trust the facilitator. And it's very easy if you're good at asking powerful questions are redirecting conversation. You can easily redirect people in a direction that you believe is the right direction. You shouldn't be doing that. You should remain impartial. It's hard to do. That's the most hardest thing to do about facilitation. Tip number 4, respect people's time. Start the meeting on time. End the meeting on time. when there's a good flow in the meeting, everyone is participating and moving towards the desired outcome, people will lose track of time, and it's your role as a facilitator to remind them that they are losing track of time. Remind them 10 minutes, 15 minutes, 5 minutes prior to the end of a meeting so that they can manage their own time. Now, let's talk about how a Scrum Master should be facilitating all the Scrum events, starting with the sprint planning. Remember, the goal of a sprint planning is to commit as a team on a list of user stories, a list of tasks, a list of features, a list of things to do as a team, and a sprint goal. That's the goal of a sprint planning. And a sprint planning starts prior to the sprint planning. The product owner, the team, should come prepared, especially the product owner, ensures that the product backlog, in priority, starting with the most important things on top. Really important that the product owner knows what's the priority. Also, ensuring that all the things that are priority items are already refined. It's not a good practice to refine things in the sprint planning itself. What if things will take weeks in order to be refined because we need to wait for someone else in another team to give an answer on something? That's not good. Always do the refinement a few days, even a few weeks prior, so that you don't get this issue of being blocked by someone else. Your role as a Scrum Master, a facilitator, is to ensure that this event is done, effective, and we get the desired outcome out of this event. Help the team decide on how much work they will take. Estimate the work. Decide on a sprint goal. Decide on a plan on how they will work together to accomplish this sprint goal. The next event is the Daily Scrum, a session for the developers by the developers. It's typical that the developers will facilitate this session because it's their session. The Scrum Master or the product owner, they are not required to join this session, but they can join the session. But typically, for new teams, especially new teams, the Scrum Master can facilitate the session. And that's all good. Let's say you're a facilitator of a session as a Scrum Master. You just need to guide the team, facilitate the session so that the team decides, crafts a plan for the day on how to get closer to the sprint goal. That's it. Simple. How they will collaborate. Ask powerful questions. Do they need help? Anything blocking them? Impediments? Do we need to talk to each other, collaborate during the day? Do we need help from people outside the team, in the team? How they will work together today to get closer to the sprint goal. The next event, the sprint review, done by the team, not only the product owner. The team will showcase what they accomplished in the past sprint, what went well, what didn't go so well, what could be improved, so that they can get feedback from the stakeholders, the attendees of this meeting. As a Scrum Master, ensure that people attend this meeting, the team, and also the stakeholders. You need to get this feedback on the team, on the product being developed, on the feature being developed, being demoed, so that we know what to work on in the future. Does the product backlog need to be changed? Ask the question, or at least ensure that these questions are asked in the sprint review. The next and last Scrum event is the sprint retrospective, the session I would say Scrum Masters facilitate the most. There's hundreds of cool ideas on how to facilitate this session. You can watch this video to get more details on exactly how to do that. But it's quite simple. Remember the goal. The goal is to inspect, but let the team, not you, the team inspect what they did in the last sprint with regards to individuals, interactions, processes, tools, the definition of done, so that they can find better ways, more effective, efficient ways of working. Agree on a list as a facilitator, ensure that the team agrees on a list of action items that they can do to improve, especially action items that can be started in the next sprint itself. But this we can talk about in the sprint planning. As a facilitator, ensure that everyone has an equal voice. Use the tips that we discussed earlier in this video. Just ensure everyone is safe, equal voice, people are trusting each other, people trust you, you are impartial and biased, really hard to do, and that you're meeting the goal. The goal is to find improvement items that can be used in future sprints to improve in terms of individuals, interactions, processes, tools, the definition of done. If you want more tips, insights on Agile, Scrum, personal growth, click on the video that stands out the most on the screen right now, and I'll see you in a few seconds.